The amphitheater was massive. Rows of seats curved upward in a half circle, filled with students from across the galaxy. There were beings with scales, beings with fur, beings that floated in containers of liquid, and beings that looked like walking crystals. The room hummed with the sound of 100 different languages being translated through neural implants. Jinho sat near the back, trying to make himself invisible. He was good at that. Being one of only 3 humans at the Galactic University meant he attracted attention whether he wanted it or not. Most days he just wanted to attend his classes and go back to his small dorm room. At the front of the amphitheater, Professor Velthar moved across the stage. The professor had 6 arms and skin that shimmered like oil on water. He was one of the most respected scientists in the galaxy. His books on evolutionary biology were studied on 1,000 worlds. Today, we conclude our study of apex predators, the professor announced. His voice was deep and carried easily through the room. These were creatures that sat at the top of their food chains. Nothing hunted them. They hunted everything else. A hologram appeared above the stage. It showed a creature that looked like a massive wolf covered in blue flames. Students from peaceful worlds gasped. The Varathian hunter, Velthar said. It could run at speeds exceeding 200 kilometers per hour. Its flames could melt steel. For 10,000 years it ruled the plains of Varathia Prime. He paused. It has been extinct for 8,000 years. Another hologram replaced the first. This one showed a serpent the size of a starship, its wings blotting out the sun. The sky serpent of the Horsehead Nebula. It could fly through the vacuum of space and swallow small moons. The professor's voice took on a lecturing tone. Also extinct. Dead for 12,000 years. More holograms followed. Each showed a creature more terrifying than the last. Each was extinct. Velthar turned to face his students. Do you see the pattern? Every true apex predator in galactic history has gone extinct. Not one has survived to the modern age. And why? Because they became too specialized, too perfect at killing. When their environments changed, they could not adapt. They were evolutionary dead ends. The professor walked to the center of the stage. His multiple arms spread wide. This is a fundamental law of evolution. A species that becomes too good at one thing becomes vulnerable to everything else. Apex predators are magnificent, yes, but they are also doomed. The galaxy is safer now that they are gone. Students nodded. Some took notes. Others simply listened with whatever sensory organs they possessed. Jinho felt something twist in his stomach. He thought about Earth. He thought about the animals he'd learned about in school. Lions, tigers, bears, sharks, eagles, wolves. He thought about humans. His hand started to rise. He tried to stop it. This was a bad idea. He was just a first-year student. Professor Velthar was famous. Challenging him would be foolish. But his hand kept rising. The amphitheater grew quiet. Hundreds of alien eyes turned toward him. The professor looked up, clearly annoyed at the interruption. Yes? Velthar said. You have a question? Jinho stood up. His legs felt weak. Professor, I don't think your conclusion is correct. A ripple of surprise moved through the crowd. Students didn't usually contradict Professor Velthar, especially not first-year students, especially not humans. The professor's scales shifted color slightly, showing irritation. Oh, and what makes you think you know better than centuries of research? You said all apex predators are extinct, Jinho said. His voice was quiet but steady. That's not true. Really? Name one apex predator that still exists. Jinho took a breath. Us, humans, we're still here. For a moment, there was absolute silence. Then the amphitheater erupted. Students turned to their neighbors, speaking in rapid bursts. Some laughed. Others looked confused. A few looked disturbed. Professor Velthar held up one of his 6 hands, calling for silence. When the room quieted, he spoke with barely concealed amusement. You humans? Apex predators? He actually chuckled. Young human, have you looked at yourself? You have no claws, no natural armor, no venom, no enhanced strength. You are one of the physically weakest species in this room. That's true, Jinho admitted, but we're still apex predators. We just do it differently. Differently? The professor's scales rippled with what might have been laughter. Please enlighten us. How does a species with no natural weapons become an apex predator? Jinho felt the weight of hundreds of stares. He could back down now, apologize, sit down. Forget this ever happened. Instead, he said, give me 1 week. Let me prepare a presentation. I can prove it. Velthar studied him. The professor's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. Finally, he nodded. Very well, 1 week. We will have a formal debate. You will present your evidence and I will show you why you are wrong. This will be educational. The way he said educational made it clear he expected to humiliate Jinho in front of the entire university. Thank you, Professor, Jinho said. He sat down, his heart pounding. The lecture continued, but Jinho barely heard it. What had he just done? He'd challenged one of the most respected scientists in the galaxy. He'd claimed that humans were apex predators. He had 1 week to prove it. As the class ended and students filed out, many cast curious glances at Jinho. Some looked amused. Others looked at him like he was insane. Near the door, 2 other humans waited. Mirai and Taiyang, the only other humans at the university. Mirai was a graduate student studying alien cultures. Taiyang worked in the bioengineering labs. What did you just do? Mirai asked as Jinho approached. I have no idea, Jinho admitted. Taiyang grinned. Well, you better figure it out. Because in 1 week you have to convince the entire galaxy that humans are apex predators. We, Mirai corrected. If Jinho's doing this, we're helping. We're all humans here. Jinho felt relief wash over him. He wouldn't have to do this alone. We need to go to the library, Taiyang said. We need every piece of data we can find about human evolution, hunting strategies, and survival capabilities. And we need to understand what the professor will argue, Mirai added. He'll come prepared. He'll have examples and data. We need to be better prepared. As they walked through the university's corridors, Jinho realized something. The debate had attracted attention. Students from other classes were already talking about it. By tomorrow, the entire station would know. By the end of the week, universities across the galaxy would be watching. This was bigger than a simple classroom disagreement. This was about how the galaxy saw humanity. Were they primitive newcomers who got lucky with faster-than-light travel? Or were they something more? Something that had been hiding in plain sight all along? Jinho thought about Earth again. About the animals that lived there. About the history of his species. About what humans had done to survive, to thrive, to dominate their world. Maybe challenging the professor wasn't such a bad idea after all. Maybe it was time the galaxy learned the truth about humanity. The university library was enormous. It held knowledge from 10,000 worlds, stored in data crystals that glowed with soft blue light. Jinho, Mirai, and Taiyang had claimed a private study room on the 3rd level. For 3 days, they barely slept. They pulled every piece of information they could find about human evolution, Earth's history, and predator behavior across the galaxy. This is incredible, Mirai said, staring at her screen. Did you know that humans are the only species in galactic records that can throw objects accurately at high speeds?
Really?
Taiyang looked up from his own research. Not even one other species? Not one. Most species either have ranged biological weapons like venom or energy projection, or they fight up close. But throwing? That's unique to humans. Our shoulders are designed for it. Our brains can calculate trajectory automatically. Jinho added it to their growing list of evidence. The list was getting long. Too long, maybe. They needed to organize it better. We need a structure, he said. We can't just throw random facts at the professor. We need an argument. A clear progression, Taiyang nodded. Start with the basics. What makes an apex predator? Then show how humans fit that definition. But we also need to address the obvious problem, Mirai said. We're not physically impressive. Any student in that amphitheater could probably overpower a human in direct combat. We need to explain why physical strength doesn't matter. They worked late into the night building their argument piece by piece. By the 4th day, word of the upcoming debate had spread beyond the university. News feeds across the galaxy were picking up the story. It was too interesting to ignore. A primitive species claiming to be apex predators? Many found it amusing. Some found it concerning. The university administration decided to move the debate to the Grand Hall, the largest venue on the station. They opened it to the public. Within hours, every seat was claimed. Thousands more registered to watch via holographic broadcast. Jinho tried not to think about the audience size. It didn't help. On the 5th day, they practiced their presentation. Mirai played the role of hostile questioner, throwing challenges at every point. It was brutal but necessary. Professor Velthar wouldn't be gentle. What about adaptability? Mirai asked. The professor will say that humans are too adaptable to be specialized predators. That's actually our strongest point, Taeyang said. Adaptability is exactly why we're still here when other apex predators died out. We didn't over-specialize. We stayed flexible. Good, use that, Jinho said, making notes. On the 6th day, they received an unexpected visitor. A tall being covered in gray fur entered their study room. It took Jinho a moment to recognize him. Professor Dran, who taught military history. I heard about your debate, Dran said. His voice was rough like rocks grinding together. I wanted to offer some information. What kind of information? Mirai asked. I've studied human military history. Your wars, your tactics, your weapons development. Dran's eyes were serious. I think you should include it in your presentation. Why? Jinho asked. Because it's terrifying. Most species in the galaxy have small conflicts. Border disputes. Resource competition. But humans? You waged total war. You developed weapons designed specifically to kill other humans. You hunted your own species for thousands of years. The 3 humans exchanged glances. They hadn't thought about including human warfare. It seemed too dark, too violent. That might hurt our argument, Taeyang said carefully. It makes us look dangerous. Dran's expression didn't change. You are dangerous. That's the point. That's what apex predators are. The question is whether the galaxy is ready to accept that fact. After Dran left, they debated whether to include the warfare information. Finally, they decided to add it. If they were going to prove humans were apex predators, they couldn't hide the uncomfortable parts. On the 7th day, Jinho woke early. His hands were shaking. Today was the debate. He met Mirai and Taeyang for breakfast. None of them ate much. Their stomachs were too tight with nervousness. We're ready, Mirai said, though she didn't sound convinced. We have the evidence, Taeyang added. We have the arguments. We just need to present them clearly. Jinho nodded. He didn't trust his voice to stay steady. They arrived at the Grand Hall 2 hours early. It was already filling up. Students, professors, visitors from other universities, even some diplomats from various governments. Everyone wanted to see this. The stage was set with 2 podiums facing each other. Behind each was a massive holographic display. Jinho's team would stand on the left. Professor Velthar on the right. As the hour approached, the hall filled completely. Jinho could see the crowd through the backstage entrance. Thousands of beings all waiting to watch 3 humans argue against one of the galaxy's greatest minds. This is insane, he whispered. Too late to back out now, Mirai said, but she smiled. Professor Velthar arrived, flanked by 2 assistants carrying data pads. He saw the humans and nodded politely. Despite his confidence that he would win, he wasn't rude about it. Shall we begin? He asked. A moderator, a crystalline being who worked for the university's academic council, took the center stage. The crowd quieted. Welcome to this formal academic debate, the moderator said. The question before us is whether humans qualify as apex predators. Student Jinho will argue in favor. Professor Velthar will argue against. Each side will have 30 minutes to present their case, followed by rebuttals and questions. The moderator turned to Jinho. You may begin. Jinho walked to the podium. His legs felt like rubber. He looked out at the audience. Thousands of eyes stared back. Some curious, some amused, some already convinced he would fail. He took a breath and began. Thank you for coming. A week ago, Professor Velthar stated that all apex predators are extinct. Today, I will prove that statement is incorrect. Not because the professor's research is wrong, but because he overlooked one species. Mine. He activated the holographic display. An image of Earth appeared, rotating slowly. This is Earth, my homeworld. It's a dangerous place. It has extreme weather, aggressive diseases, and thousands of species that evolved to kill. And yet humans not only survived there, we dominated it. We became the apex predator of an entire planet. The crowd murmured. Some seemed interested now. The question is how. We have no claws, no armor, no venom. Professor Velthar is correct about that. So how did we do it? Jinho paused. We did it through 3 advantages that, when combined, made us unstoppable. He changed the hologram. It now showed a human running across an open plain. First, endurance. Humans can run for hours without stopping. We can chase prey until it collapses from exhaustion. This is called persistence hunting, and it was how our ancestors survived. He showed footage of ancient humans tracking animals across vast distances. The audience grew quieter. Second, tool use and throwing ability. Humans can throw objects with accuracy and force that no other known species can match. Combined with our ability to create weapons, this gave us ranged killing power. The hologram showed a human throwing a spear. The calculations appeared beside it, showing velocity, trajectory, and force. The numbers were impressive. Third, pack tactics and communication. Humans hunt in groups, share information across generations, and constantly improve our strategies. We don't just learn. We teach, we plan, we coordinate. Jinho looked directly at Professor Velthar. These three advantages made humans the apex predators of Earth. But there's more. There's something that explains why we're still here when all the other apex predators the professor mentioned are extinct. He paused, letting the tension build. We adapt. We don't overspecialize. When the environment changes, we change with it. When we can't change biologically, we change technologically. We're not just predators. We're the most adaptable predators in galactic history. The crowd was completely silent now. Jinho had their attention. It was time to show them just how dangerous humans really were. Mirai stepped up to join Jinho at the podium. She activated her portion of the holographic display. A new image appeared showing a map of Earth with migration routes marked in glowing lines. Humans originated in Africa, she began. But we didn't stay there. Over thousands of years, humans spread to every continent on Earth except Antarctica. And eventually we went there too. The hologram showed humans moving across the planet. Deserts, frozen tundras, dense jungles, high mountains, tiny islands. Most species evolved to survive in one type of environment, Mirai continued. But humans? We survive in all of them. We live in places where the temperature drops to 50 degrees below zero. We live in deserts where nothing grows. We live on islands with no fresh water. We make it work. A student in the front row, a scaled being from a water world, raised a tentacle. But that just shows adaptability. Many species can adapt to new environments over time. Over time, yes, Mirai agreed. But humans do it within a single generation. A human born in the frozen north can move to the hot desert and survive. We don't need to evolve. We just need to figure out how to make it work. Taeyang took over now, changing the display to show biological data. Charts and graphs filled the air. Let me explain how human endurance actually works, he said. Because it's not just about running. It's about how we cool down. He showed a comparison between human cooling systems and those of other species. Most animals cool down by panting or seeking shade, but humans sweat. We have millions of sweat glands covering our bodies. When we run, we can cool ourselves continuously. This means we can run for hours in hot weather while our prey overheats and collapses. The hologram showed footage from Earth. A human hunter following animal tracks across grassland under a blazing sun. Hour after hour, the animal would run, then stop to rest and cool down. The human never stopped. Eventually, the animal couldn't run anymore. It just stood there, too exhausted to move, while the human walked up with a spear. The audience watched in silence. Several beings shifted uncomfortably. This is called persistence hunting, Taeyang explained, and it's absolutely terrifying to the prey. Imagine being chased by something that never stops, never gets tired, never gives up. You run until your muscles fail, until your heart feels like it will burst, and when you finally collapse, your hunter is still coming. Still walking, still following. Professor Velthar spoke up from his podium. But surely this only worked on animals slower than humans. No, Taeyang said. It worked on animals much faster than humans. Speed doesn't matter in persistence hunting. The prey can sprint at twice, 3 times, even 10 times human speed. It doesn't help. Because humans don't sprint. We jog, we track. We follow, and we never stop. Jinho returned to the podium. It was time for the part they had debated, including the part that Professor Dran had insisted they needed. There's something else you need to understand about humans, Jinho said. His voice was quieter now, more serious. We didn't just hunt animals. We hunted each other. The hologram changed to show images of human warfare throughout history. Ancient battles with spears and shields. Medieval sieges with arrows and swords. Modern conflicts with guns and explosives. For our entire history, humans have fought wars against other humans. We developed weapons specifically designed to kill our own species. We studied how to hunt each other, how to track each other, how to predict what other humans would do and counter it. The audience was very quiet now. The peaceful species looked disturbed. The warrior species looked interested. This created evolutionary pressure unlike anything else in known galactic history. Jinho continued. Humans became predators who specialized in hunting the most dangerous prey in the galaxy. Other humans. Every generation that survived was better at hunting, better at fighting, better at killing, Mireille added to this point. And this wasn't just physical evolution. It was cultural evolution. Humans passed down tactics and strategies. We studied past battles to learn from them. Every war made us better at the next war. Our knowledge of hunting and fighting accumulated across generations. A voice called out from the audience. It was Professor Dran. May I ask a question? The moderator nodded. Dran stood. I have studied human military history extensively. One thing that fascinates me is psychological warfare. Can you explain this to the audience? Jinho nodded. Psychological warfare means attacking the enemy's mind, not just their body. Humans develop tactics to make enemies afraid, confused, or demoralized. We learned that breaking an enemy's will to fight is just as effective as destroying their forces. Examples include, Mireille added, making ourselves seem more numerous than we are, attacking at unexpected times to prevent rest, or showing mercy to some enemies so others would surrender rather than fight. Tai Yang brought up new data. This extends to pattern recognition. Humans are exceptionally good at recognizing patterns and predicting behavior. We can track prey by subtle signs, a bent blade of grass, a faint scent, the behavior of birds in the distance. We can predict where prey will go before it gets there. The hologram showed a human tracker following barely visible signs through a forest. To most species, there was nothing to see, but the human could read the environment like a book. This pattern recognition extends to understanding other beings, Mireille said. Humans are social predators. We read body language, facial expressions, and vocal tones. We can often tell what someone is thinking or feeling just by watching them. This made us effective at hunting prey that tried to hide, and effective at working in groups. Professor Velthar finally stood. He looked less confident than before. This is all very interesting, but you still haven't addressed the fundamental issue. You say humans are apex predators, but you lack the physical traits that define such creatures. You are individually weak, Jinho smiled. You're right. Individually, humans are weak. But we're never individual. We're pack hunters, Professor, and not just any pack hunters. The hologram changed to show human cooperation throughout history. Hunting parties working together. Villages coordinating defenses. Cities managing millions of people. Most pack hunters rely on instinct and simple communication, Jinho explained. But humans use language. Complex language. We can describe things that aren't present. We can discuss plans for the future. We can teach complicated ideas to the next generation. This means human packs are actually human civilizations, Tai Yang added. We don't just hunt as groups of 5 or 10. We hunt as groups of hundreds, thousands, millions. Our entire species shares information and coordinates action. Mireille concluded this section. And this brings us to technology. Humans create tools not just for one purpose, but for everything. We make tools to hunt, tools to build, tools to learn, tools to teach. Our tools get better over time because we share improvements across our entire species. The hologram showed the progression of human tools. Stone spears, bronze swords, steel guns, spacecraft. Each generation more advanced than the last. So when you say humans are individually weak, you're correct, Jinho said. But we're never individual. Every human is backed by the accumulated knowledge and tools of our entire species. A single human with a spear is dangerous. A single human with a gun is deadly. A single human with access to human technology and knowledge is an apex predator. The crowd murmured. Some were convinced. Others remained skeptical. But everyone was paying attention now. Professor Velthar looked thoughtful. He was clearly reassessing his arguments. But Jinho wasn't done. They had saved the most disturbing evidence for last. There's one more thing, Jinho said quietly. One more piece of evidence that proves humans are apex predators. He changed the hologram one more time. We domesticated other apex predators. The hologram showed images of dogs, cats, horses, and other animals living peacefully with humans. These animals were once wild. They were predators themselves, wolves, wildcats. They competed with humans for food and territory. Jinho paused. And humans didn't just hunt them to extinction. We broke them. We turned them into companions and tools. We took other predators and made them part of our pack. The silence in the grand hall was absolute. No other known species has done this, Miri said. Humans didn't just dominate Earth's food chain. We absorbed it. We made the other predators part of our hunting strategy. Jinho looked at Professor Velthar. So yes, Professor. We have no claws. We have no armor. We have no venom. But we are apex predators. We're just a type of apex predator that the galaxy has never seen before. One that survives through persistence, intelligence, cooperation, and adaptability. He stepped back from the podium. We rest our case. Professor Velthar stood at his podium. For a long moment, he said nothing. He simply looked at the three humans across from him. The audience waited. Finally, the professor spoke. That was compelling. I will admit you have presented evidence I had not fully considered. However, I believe there is a fundamental flaw in your argument. He activated his own holographic display. Images of extinct apex predators appeared, the same ones from his original lecture. You argue that humans are apex predators because of adaptability, but this contradicts the very definition of an apex predator. True apex predators are specialists. They excel at one thing, killing. The Varathian hunter specialized in speed and fire. The sky serpent specialized in size and flight. They were perfect killing machines. Velthar looked at Jinho. But humans, you are generalists. You can do many things adequately, but nothing perfectly. You are not the fastest runners, not the strongest fighters, not the best at any single predatory trait. By definition, that means you are not apex predators. You are opportunistic survivors. The audience murmured agreement. It was a strong argument. Mirai stepped forward. Professor, with respect, I think you're using the wrong definition. You're defining apex predators by their specialization, but that's exactly why they went extinct. They became too specialized to adapt when their world changed. She changed the hologram to show environmental changes, ice ages, climate shifts, ecosystem collapses. When the climate changed, the Varathian hunter couldn't adapt. It needed specific prey that lived in specific conditions. When those conditions disappeared, so did the hunter. The same happened to every specialized apex predator. They were victims of their own perfection. Taeyang joined her, but humans survived ice ages. We survived droughts and floods. We survived diseases that should have destroyed us. We survived because we didn't specialize. When the environment changed, we changed our tactics. When our prey disappeared, we found new prey. When our tools stopped working, we invented new tools. Velthar was not convinced. That proves my point. You adapted because you had to. Real apex predators don't need to adapt. They dominate their environment so completely that adaptation is unnecessary. Until the environment changes, Jinho said quietly. And then they die. He walked closer to Velthar's podium. Professor, you said apex predators are evolutionary dead ends. You're right, but only if they over-specialize. Humans are apex predators that avoided that trap. We're apex predators that can survive anything. A voice from the audience interrupted. It was a Threxy, an insectoid being known for its logical thinking. If I may offer a perspective? Perhaps we are arguing about different types of apex predators, specialized versus generalized. Both can exist at the top of a food chain, just in different ways. Velthar considered this, an interesting thought. But if humans are generalized apex predators, how do we explain their rapid rise? Most species take millions of years to reach the top of their food chain. According to your own data, humans achieved dominance in just a few 100,000 years. Mirai smiled. That's because of cultural evolution, Professor. Biological evolution is slow. But humans don't just evolve biologically. We evolve culturally. Each generation builds on the knowledge of the previous generation. Our tools get better. Our tactics improve. Our understanding deepens. This happens much faster than biological change. She showed a timeline of human development. Stone tools, fire, agriculture, writing, science, technology, each advance built on what came before. In biological terms, humans haven't changed much in the last 50,000 years. She continued. But culturally, we've transformed completely. We went from hunting with stone spears to traveling between stars. That's cultural evolution. That's what makes humans dangerous. Professor Velthar was quiet for a moment. Then he played what he clearly thought was his winning move. Very well. Let us assume for the sake of argument that humans are apex predators on Earth. That still doesn't make you apex predators in a galactic context. You are surrounded by species with superior technology, greater numbers, and longer histories. In this environment, humans are not at the top of the food chain. You are newcomers in a galaxy full of more advanced civilizations. This argument hit hard. Several students nodded. It was true. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 15 years ago. They were the newest, least developed species in the university. Jinho looked at Mirai and Taiyang. They had anticipated this argument, but it was still difficult to counter. How could they claim to be apex predators when surrounded by more powerful species? Then Taiyang spoke, and his voice was darker than before. Professor, you're making an assumption. You're assuming that being an apex predator means being at the top right now, but that's not what it means. It means having the traits necessary to reach the top. He changed the hologram to show Earth's history again. Humans weren't always the apex predators on Earth. For millions of years we were prey. We were hunted by larger, stronger predators. But we survived. We learned. We adapted. And eventually we hunted them instead. The hologram showed early humans hiding from predators, then learning to defend themselves, then hunting those same predators, then driving them to extinction. The fact that we're newcomers in the galaxy doesn't mean we're not apex predators, Taiyang continued. It means we're apex predators in a new environment. Give us time, and we'll adapt to this environment too. Several beings in the audience shifted uncomfortably. The implication was clear and unsettling. Velthar's scales changed color, showing concern. That sounds like a threat. It's not a threat, Jinho said quickly. It's an observation. Apex predators adapt to their environment. That's what we do. On Earth, we learn to survive alongside other dangerous species. In the galaxy, we're learning to survive alongside advanced civilizations. The process is the same, Mirai added. And consider this, Professor. In just 15 years, humans have gone from first contact to having students at the most prestigious university in the galaxy. We have colonies on 3 different worlds. We have trade agreements with a dozen species. We're adapting to galactic society faster than any previous newcomer species. A Selenian diplomat in the audience stood up. The Selenians were known for their strategic thinking. The humans raise a valid point. Their rate of adaptation is unprecedented. In my government, we have been concerned about the implications. This caused a stir in the crowd. If the Selenians were concerned, others should be too. Professor Velthar held up a hand for silence. I believe we are straying from the academic question into political territory. Let us return to the science. He turned to the humans. You have made your case that humans are apex predators on Earth. You argue that this status will eventually extend to the galaxy. But can you prove it? Can you show that human traits would allow you to dominate in a galactic context? Jinho thought carefully. How could they prove something that hadn't happened yet? Then he had an idea. Professor, you've studied many extinct civilizations, correct? Of course. It is part of understanding evolutionary pressures. How many of those civilizations went extinct because they couldn't adapt to changing circumstances? Velthar paused. Most of them. Perhaps 80%. And how many went extinct because they were destroyed by more adaptable competitors? Another pause. The remaining 20%. Jinho nodded. So adaptability is the key to survival. Not specialization. Not current dominance, adaptability. The ability to change when the environment changes. He looked at the professor. And humans are the most adaptable species you've ever studied. You said so yourself in your analysis of human evolution. We survive conditions that would kill most other species. We solve problems in ways that don't occur to other species. We adapt faster than any known civilization. Taiyang stepped forward. So here's our proof, Professor. We're not apex predators because we're the strongest or the fastest or the most technologically advanced. We're apex predators because we're the most likely to survive whatever comes next. When the galaxy faces its next great challenge, humans will adapt to it. That's what we do. That's what apex predators do. The Grand Hall was silent again. Every being present was considering the implications. Professor Velthar looked at his notes, at his data, at his lifetime of research. Finally, he looked up at the 3 humans. I need time to consider this, he said slowly. You have challenged fundamental assumptions about evolutionary biology. This is not something I can dismiss easily. The moderator stepped forward. Shall we adjourn and reconvene tomorrow for final arguments? Both sides agreed. The debate was not over, but it had reached a turning point. As the audience filed out, the discussions were intense. Species debated among themselves. What if the humans were right? What did it mean for the galaxy? Jinho, Mireille, and Taeyang left through a side exit, avoiding the crowds. They were exhausted but satisfied. They had made their case. Now they had to wait for the galaxy's response. They didn't know it yet, but that response would come sooner than expected, and it would test everything they had just argued. Part 5. The alarm woke Jinho from a restless sleep. It was 3 a.m, station time. He grabbed his communicator and saw the emergency broadcast. Colony Delta 7 had gone silent. All communications cut off. The last transmission showed ships of unknown design entering the system. Then nothing. Jinho's heart raced. Delta 7 was a joint colony. Humans, Velcori, and Threxy lived there together. 15,000 beings. Now they were just gone. His communicator buzzed again. It was Mirai. Did you see the news? I saw it. What's happening? Nobody knows. The Galactic Council is meeting now. There's talk of sending a reconnaissance mission. Over the next 2 days, 3 more colonies went silent. The pattern was the same each time. Unknown ships. Brief resistance. Then silence. The debate was postponed. Nobody cared about academic arguments when colonies were disappearing. The university became a hub of worried students trying to contact families, following news feeds, sharing rumors. On the 3rd day, a reconnaissance ship returned from Delta 7. What it found was devastating. The colony was intact but empty. No bodies, no survivors, just empty buildings and scattered belongings. And written in the central plaza, in letters 50 meters high, was a message in galactic standard. This galaxy belongs to the strong. The weak will serve or die. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Jinho, Mireille, and Taeyang watched the broadcast from the university's common area, along with hundreds of other students. The council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from dozens of species shouted over each other. Some demanded military action. Others called for negotiation. Most simply seemed afraid. A Velcori representative stood. Her species were known for being peaceful herbivores. We must attempt communication. Perhaps these attackers can be reasoned with. Violence should be our last resort. A Dralthak warrior disagreed. They have attacked 4 colonies without warning. Taken 15,000 prisoners. Left threatening messages. There is nothing to negotiate. We must respond with force. Force with what? A Threxy counselor asked. Most member species have minimal military forces. We have enjoyed peace for centuries. We are not prepared for war. This was true. The Galactic Council had a small peacekeeping force designed to handle pirates and minor disputes. They were not equipped to fight an organized enemy. Then the human ambassador stood. Ambassador Quan was an older woman who had been humanity's voice in the council since first contact. She had a reputation for being careful and diplomatic. Earth is prepared to offer military assistance, she said quietly. The chamber fell silent. Many representatives looked skeptical. Humans were newcomers. What could they possibly offer? A Selenian counselor spoke. With respect, Ambassador, humanity has been part of the galactic community for only 15 years. What military capability could you have developed in such a short time? Ambassador Quan's expression didn't change. Humanity has been developing military capability for 10,000 years. We have fought wars on every continent of our planet. We have studied warfare like other species study art. We know how to fight. The Selenian looked troubled. That is precisely what concerns us. If we allow humanity to lead a military response, are we not simply replacing one aggressive species with another? Watching from the university, Jinho felt his stomach drop. This was the fear he had seen in some faces during the debate. The galaxy didn't just question whether humans were apex predators. They feared what it meant if they were. Ambassador Quan remained calm. I understand your concern, but consider your options. These attackers have already demonstrated that they respect only strength. They took your colonies because they believed you were weak. If you negotiate from a position of weakness, you will lose. If you fight with inadequate forces, you will lose. If you do nothing, you will definitely lose. She looked around the chamber. Humanity is offering you a 4th option. Let us coordinate the defense. We will work with all willing species. We will share our tactical knowledge, and when this threat is ended, we will step back. We have no desire to dominate the galaxy. We just want to survive in it, same as you. The debate in the council lasted hours. Some species supported the human offer. Others remained suspicious. A few refused to participate in military action at all. Finally, a vote was called. By a narrow margin, the Council agreed to allow humanity to coordinate a coalition defense force. 3 days later, Admiral Hyejin arrived at the university station. She came to recruit specialists, people who understood both human tactics and alien capabilities. Professor Dran recommended several students from his military history classes. He also recommended Jinho, Mirai, and Taeyang. The 3 humans met the Admiral in a secure briefing room. Hyejin was tall and moved with the confidence of someone who had commanded troops in real combat. She studied them carefully. "I watched your debate," she said. "You argued that humans are apex predators. Now I need you to prove it." Jinho felt his mouth go dry. "Admiral, we're students. We don't have military training. I don't need you to fight. I need you to think. Mirai, you study how alien species think and communicate. I need that for psychological warfare and negotiation. Taeyang, you understand alien biology and technology. I need that for defensive planning. Jinho, you understand how to explain human tactics to non-humans. I need that to coordinate with our allies." She leaned forward. "We have weapons. We have ships. We have soldiers. What we need is the ability to fight smart, not just hard. That means understanding our enemy, understanding our allies, and adapting our tactics to both. That's what you 3 have been studying." The 3 students looked at each other. This was real. This wasn't a debate or a research project. This was war. "Will you help?" the Admiral asked. Mirai spoke first. "Yes," Taeyang nodded. "We'll help." Jinho took a breath. "What do you need us to do?" Admiral Hyejin smiled. It was not a comforting expression. "First, I need you to analyze everything we know about these attackers. Find their patterns, find their weaknesses, find me a way to beat them." She activated a holographic display. It showed star charts, attack patterns, and the limited footage from the colony attacks. They call themselves the Krell. They're a militaristic species from beyond the frontier. They believe in survival of the strongest. They conquer, they enslave, they destroy. They've done this to a dozen other regions of space. Now they've reached our galaxy. The hologram showed Krell warriors. They were large, heavily armored, and carried weapons that looked devastating. They have superior numbers, superior technology, superior firepower. Every species they've encountered has either submitted or been destroyed. The Admiral looked at the 3 students. But they've never encountered humans before. Jinho studied the display. He thought about everything they had argued in the debate. Persistence, adaptability, pattern recognition. "Pack tactics, they're specialized predators," he said quietly. "Like the ones in Professor Velthar's lecture. Perfect for direct combat. Probably never had to adapt their tactics because they were always the strongest." Mirai nodded slowly. "Which means they'll expect us to fight the same way everyone else has fought them. Direct confrontation. Defense of static positions. Conventional warfare." Taeyang finished the thought. "So we don't give them that fight. We use human tactics. We adapt to them faster than they can adapt to us." Admiral Hyejin's smile widened. "Exactly. Now show me how." The 3 students looked at each other. A week ago, they had been arguing in a classroom about whether humans were apex predators. Now they had to prove it in the only way that mattered. They had to win. Outside the briefing room, the galaxy waited nervously. The Krell were coming. The question was whether humanity's claim to being apex predators was just theory, or whether they could actually hunt when it mattered. The galaxy was about to find out.